9% of Black students at four-year institutions complete their degree within 6 years. These are about Black and first-generation college students. 72% of Black students incur debt from their graduation compared to 56% of white students. Nearly 40% of Black graduates default on their loans within 12 years compared to 12% of white graduates. Black college graduates earn 15% less on average than their white peers. When you think of first-generation college students, 66% of first-generation college students have student loan debt compared to 56% of their peers. 65% of first-generation students owe $25,000 or more in student loan debt compared to other graduates. Students with one college-educated parent have a 60% graduation rate, whereas first-generation students only have about 30%. And first-generation graduates earn $36,000 less annually than their peers. Now, what's the point of me saying all of these sad, sobering statistics? The point I'm trying to show is that even if you go to college, a lot of us are still struggling. You get a college degree, you still can't get a job. You get a college degree, they're offering you $30,000 a year. What's the point in going into debt? $50,000 in student loan debt, $60,000 in student loan debt, and your job won't even pay off the debt. This is what we're faced with. However, next slide, despite these sobering statistics, there's still so much value in higher education. College graduates earn $1.2 million more over the course of their lifetime. They also have higher levels of job satisfaction, healthier lifestyles, and longer health expectancy. So, if you want to actually experience value out of your college education, there's so much more you need to know than going to class and getting good grades, and this is what we're going to focus on throughout the workshop. Next slide. So, in the next slide, there is going to be a scale. It's a scale that I made. I don't want anyone to be offended by the scale, but I want our students to rank themselves on a scale of 1 to 5. And here you're going to see the criteria that's on the scale. One piece of criteria is academics. So yes, getting good grades, having good test scores. The other thing, though, is professional experience. Are you doing career-relevant work? Do you have internships? Do you have anything on your resume? Furthermore, we have networking. Do you have professional relationships? Do you have mentors? And the last thing, which is one of the most important things, is having a sense of purpose and direction. In other words, being able to answer the question, what is your why? Next slide. So, we have a scale of 1 to 5. The goal of this scale is for people to assess where they're at and determine what they need to do to move up the scale. So I want the students who are at a 1 to know how they can move to a 2. For the students at a 2 to know how they can move to a 3, and further and further and further. So being at a 1 is you have poor academics, your grades are not good, you have nothing on your resume, very little professional experience, and no sense of purpose. A 2 would be having passing grades, a decent GPA, but no career-relevant work experience. So this person wouldn't stand out amongst a large pool of applicants. A 3 would be doing well in academics, being involved maybe in a club or a leadership position, but not being very competitive in high-stakes situations. A 4 would be strong in most areas, but average in maybe one category or missing one category. And a 5 is the cream of the crop. So these are students who have good grades, and they have a strong resume, and they have an extensive network, and they have a strong personal story and outstanding communication and interpersonal skills. There's nothing wrong with being at a 3. You have good grades, maybe you're a little bit involved on campus, but the problem is when you're applying for an internship or another opportunity, you're competing with dozens more people who have a lot going on, and you're not going to stand out. And so we need to be thinking about how we can make ourselves more competitive. Next slide. So the things we're going to focus on, we're going to quickly gloss over academics because, like I said, going to class, getting good grades, that's common sense. And we're going to focus more on professional development, networking, and having a strong sense of purpose. Next slide. So firstly, we're going to talk about purpose and direction, being able to answer the question, what is your why? Next slide. Can anybody see the words? Yes. Would someone mind helping me read maybe the first bullet point, and then we can get another volunteer for the second bullet point? Or is it too small? Can anyone see? Can you see? Okay, you can read the first one, Leo.
It says, you're not successful because you majored in a hobby.
You're not successful because you majored in a hobby. Any volunteers for the second bullet point?
If you are first, Jane, you have no business majoring in interest. Choose a STEM degree.
Yes. If you are first gen, that's just short for first generation college students, people will tell you you have no business majoring in something just because you're interested in it. You need to major in STEM. Does anyone know what STEM is? Say it loud if you know.
Science, technology.
Good job, thank you. Third bullet point.
Look up the 10 college degrees that make the most money and choose from that list.
So this is advice someone was giving on TikTok. They told the first generation college students, if you don't know what to go to school for, just look up the top 10 college degrees that make the most money and pick one. Terrible advice, terrible, terrible, terrible. Fourth bullet point, someone.
Sociology, gender studies, African American studies, and etc. is a useless degree.
Does anyone recognize a pattern with any of these quotes? These are all actual quotes, by the way, that I got from people. Anyone? I can tell you. TikTok, yes. That is, in fact, a commonality because I did get them all on TikTok. But the main thing that they all have in common is that they devalue humanities. Humanities is the degrees that are not STEM, sociology, communications, English, stuff like that. And they blame people's majors for their lack of success. Here's the problem with this. What I've noticed is that most people who have humanities majors, they have a lack of purpose, right? So they don't know what they want to do with their lives. They don't have any idea the kind of work they see themselves doing. They just randomly choose a major, and they think that the college degree in and of itself is going to open all these doors, and they're going to be able to easily find a job. But they don't have a clear idea of what they're interested in. So the problem here is it's not the major. You can study whatever you want and whatever you're interested in if you know what you want to do with it. For example, I majored in international affairs. My major has nothing to do with the stuff I want to do. I don't even think my parents know this, but the reason I majored in international affairs was because I had a phase in my freshman year of college, and I said I was going to move to Haiti and build a school. And then Jovenel got assassinated, and I was like, never mind. But even though my interests changed, my major didn't really stop me from doing the things that I wanted to do because I had a clear idea of what I wanted to do. So if you see yourself not majoring in science, technology, engineering, math, I don't want you to be discouraged, and I don't want you to pressure yourself into one of those majors because there's no point in choosing it if you're going to fail and if you're not going to do a good job. But if you don't know what you want to do with your humanities degree, I would ask yourself, what is my purpose? What am I passionate about? When I envision my life in 15 years, what kind of job do I see myself doing? So yes, your Black Studies degree or your sociology degree, it's not going to directly correlate with a job, and that's fine. as long as you know why you chose the major and you put yourself in a position to gain the skills that you need to fulfill your mission. That's all that matters. Next slide. So for anyone who wants, I have 2 QR codes. I have one assessment for choosing a major. This is for my seniors in high school or my freshmen or even sophomores in college who don't know what they want to major in. And I also have a self-assessment for career planning. If anyone wants to scan the QR codes and save them, I highly recommend. But I can also go back at the end. I'm going to give it a few seconds. When people feel like they have it, just yell out, "Done," please. Done. Go back, please. Everyone got it? People scanning? Okay. All right. For those who don't have it yet, email me. My email is going to be at the end, and I can send it to you. Or someone else who already has it can send it to you. I'll give it a few more seconds. People look like they're trying. And all right, next slide. So I have a quote here. Purpose and passion leads to direction. Direction allows you to plan, and planning supports your success. Next slide. So when I ask people to think of their purpose, I encourage you guys all to think big. You can literally do whatever you want to do if you pray and set your mind to it. Everything that you see, every commercial that you watch, every tool that you see, every product that you see, it exists because someone made it. Someone had an idea and they actually thought that they could do it. So I want you guys to have the same mindset. However, the bridge between having an idea and having the actual outcome is a plan. You can't just say, "Oh, I want to be a doctor when I grow up," and you have no plan. You have no idea how you're supposed to do that. You don't know anything about what you're supposed to major in, what classes you're supposed to take. You don't know anything about the MCAT. You're just like, "I'm going to be a doctor," like the doctor is going to fall out of the sky. That's not how it works. A plan is very important. Furthermore, you lose 100% of the chances that you don't take. Most of us, who are students, who are in school, we're too young to be telling ourselves that, like, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that." That's unrealistic. You can literally do anything. You just have to be willing to put in the time and the effort to do the research to figure out how to do it. Next slide. So we're going to move on from purpose to talking about academics. We're going to spend the least amount of time here because, like I said, it's pretty obvious. You have to study. You have to pay attention in class. You have to actually take notes on the lecture, right? In college, people are not going to hold your hand and force you to go to class. You're not going to get in trouble for not going to class. You're just wasting your money if you skip class. But I would say it's also very important to ask for feedback and to take every opportunity to get feedback when it's offered to you. A lot of professors, if there's a big project, if there's an essay, they're going to offer for you to turn it in early so that you can get feedback before you submit it for a final grade. Always, always, always take this opportunity because the reason that they're giving you feedback is they know the grading is going to be harsh and they plan on grading you harshly. And if you don't take the feedback, you're going to get a lot lower of a grade than you would have otherwise. Furthermore, obviously, prepare for any assessments that you have, any tests, any quizzes. They tend to be a big percentage of your grade. And don't cheat. Again, does that sound obvious? Yes, but let's keep it 100. Everyone's using ChatGPT now. The problem is, y'all are not going to know how to write. I'm so happy ChatGPT came out like when I graduated because if it existed when I was in school, I would not know how to write. I remember I was reading discussion posts from my classmates. Most of y'all are familiar with what that is. And it was a class about race and racism, as y'all know, if y'all know me. And and all the white students, you can kind of tell that they were just putting together race-related buzzwords and putting it into ChatGPT and submitting it. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, you guys didn't even read the chapter. Like, I can read your comments and see that you didn't actually do the reading. You didn't do the assignment. The problem is, like, they're going to leave that class not knowing anything. It's like you have a whole class on your transcript. People are going to think you're educated. People are going to think you know stuff. And then at the end of it, you don't know anything because you were cheating the whole time. I would highly recommend you not cheat yourself by doing that. However, it is valuable to talk about ethical use of AI. Next slide. So AI can be used as a tool instead of being used to cheat. You can use it to make school easier. So I have some very helpful recommendations on how to use AI. If you have a very long, dense academic article to read, I would copy and paste it into ChatGPT and ask for a summary. Instead of not doing the reading at all, do a summary, right? Another thing I like to do is ask ChatGPT to simplify. If there's a lot of just jargon, it's just complex, it's 30 pages long, I'll copy and paste the academic article into ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, can you dumb this down to like a 12th grade level? Like, explain it to me like I'm in high school. I'll read the whole 30 pages, except I'm just reading the simple version, so it's just easier to understand. So there's ways to use technology to make school easier, but don't use it to not do the work at all, right? I remember I took a whole like urban and regional planning class about minorities, and someone at the end of the class was like, what is redlining? We were talking about that the whole semester. It's like there's people that's in class the whole semester and don't learn anything because they were cheating the whole time. That's a waste of money, okay? And you don't want to look dumb, because I was judging her in that moment. Sorry, God. I would also use ChatGPT to brainstorm essay ideas, right? So you just put in what you're interested in, your interest on the subject matter, and ask ChatGPT for suggestions. And it'll tell you, oh, you can write about this, or you can write about that. And you can use it for proofreading and editing. But if you use ChatGPT to write a whole essay for you, you're gonna be the one who doesn't know how to write an essay. So yeah, you got an A on the assignment, but you don't know how to write an essay. That's not good for you, obviously. Next slide. The last thing I have to say about academics is about assessments. So depending on what field you want to go into, there are a lot of important tests you have to take. If you want to go to graduate school, you have to take the GRE. If you want to go to medical school, you have to take the MCAT. If you want to go to law school, you have to take the LSAT. If you want to pass pharmacy school, you have to take the NAPLEX. I know nursing has a test too. I think it's the NCLEX. Any nurses in here? I believe, yeah, okay. So for these tests, this is not the time to be like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna study for this test that's gonna change my life a month before the test. No, you have to dedicate everything to those assessments, because those tests can be the difference between you going to grad school for free and you being $100,000 in student loan debt, because you have to pay for the whole thing yourself, right? So it's better to take 6 months, even a year, to study for something that you know is very important, instead of just treating it like it's a joke and then you're the one who has to take out student loans when you could have just studied and got a scholarship. I know someone here got a full ride to law school. I'm not gonna say no names. Shout out to that person. Take notes. I don't know if they're in here, so I don't have glasses on. Hey girl, yes, study. It makes a difference. If you wanna go to school for free, study for the assessments. It's not a game. All right, now we're gonna get to the really important parts. Next slide. We're gonna talk about professional development, what it is and why it's important. So a lot of times people graduate from college and they're applying for jobs, they're applying for entry-level roles, and the entry-level roles say, this role requires 1 to 2 years of experience. This role requires 2 to 3 years of experience. And then we say, how is it an entry-level role if I'm supposed to have experience? How am I going to get experience if I can't get an entry-level job? Well, the problem is that while you were in college just going to class and thinking that all you had to do was study and get good grades, someone else had an internship every summer. Someone else was working throughout the whole time that they were in college. So professional development is probably the biggest thing that's going to make a difference in your ability to actually get a job after you graduate, even more so than your GPA, because your professional experience is going to get you a job before a high GPA will get you a job. Next slide. So I wanted to inform you guys of different examples of experiential learning opportunities. Experiential learning means learning through experience. I remember I had a book called Everything You Need to Know About Politics and Why. I was reading the book, I couldn't remember anything. It was so boring. I didn't learn anything from the book. But when I got my first internship at the Florida House of Representatives and I was able to actually see politics in real life, I was learning so much and I was just like, okay, this is how the process works. And that's the purpose of internships. They're temporary work experiences that allow students to gain practical skills and real-world experience in their field of study. You can also get a career-relevant job, which is employment that directly relates to a student's field of study and provides practical experiences. Now, a lot of us, we have to work while we're in school. We might have a little side job at like McDonald's. I worked at Waffle House. Shout out to Waffle House. And that's fine because you need a little bit of like side money just to like buy stuff. But it's better if you try to get a job that actually has to do with your field. Now, obviously, that's easier said than done. But if you're into medicine, you might want to try to get a job or an internship at a hospital. If you want to be a lawyer, you should try to be working at law firms, etc. It's better to get paid to learn than to get paid just doing like a job that has nothing to do with what you want to do. You can also job shadow, which is a short-term experience where you observe professionals in your field of interest to gain insights into the day-to-day responsibilities. Some tips I would give for building your resume besides internships: campus leadership can be very valuable, doing research projects, residential summer programs, joining a nonprofit, or going to conferences. There's a lot of conferences that will fly you out. They'll pay for the hotel, they'll pay for the flight, they'll pay for food. You just have to apply. And I think that's something that a lot of us are missing. There are so many opportunities that are free that'll change your life, but if you don't research and you don't apply for them, you're never gonna have access to them. Next slide. So I wanna give a few examples of success stories, just my friends from school, just so that we can have examples of what self-directed professional development looks like. I interviewed them, I asked them for some tips to share with you guys. Like I said earlier, everything that exists in the world exists because someone created it, and I want you guys to see what it looks like for someone to kind of just have the audacity to think that they can actually have an idea and just do it, because it's possible. And I think through these examples, too, I want to show how imposter syndrome is a liar. It's something that a lot of us struggle with, especially being first gen, being Haitian American, where we feel like maybe something is too big for us or it's unrealistic. But I want to show you guys examples of how that's not true. Next slide. So this is my friend, Jovan St. Victor. He's Haitian. Shout out to Haitians. He studied economics and minored in philosophy. He just graduated with me. Actually, no, I graduated before him. He just graduated this May. He started an organization called Real Estate Partners, and he's the founder and president of that organization. He's interested in private equity and real estate targeting commercial properties. His organization fundraised $5,000 for everyone in his organization to get their certifications in real estate. His organization has a 100% internship placement rate, which means he helped everyone in the organization to get a real estate internship. And he also fundraised for like a field trip to Atlanta, and they were able to tour 8 real estate firms. Currently, he has an interview. He's being flown out to Dallas next week. He said to pray for him. He cold emailed 8 people from a big real estate company. Cold email means you just go on the website, you take people's email, and you just email them, right? That's what a cold email is. Because he emailed like the whole company, now they're offering him a job, right? Jovan is like 21, and it just goes to show that you can do whatever you want if you have a sense of purpose, if you have drive, and you have determination. But what I really wanted to highlight as well is that the way he got his first internship with the Florida Department of Economics was because there was a guest speaker that came to speak to his organization. She was the director of the State Department. She offered her contact information to everybody who came to the event, and he was the only one who followed up with the guest speaker. So she gave him a job. And this is the kind of thing that sets apart, the students who on that scale we talked about might be a 3 versus the students who might be a 5, right? It's about being a go-getter. You have to go out of your way to find those extra opportunities. They're not just gonna fall into your lap. Next slide. Some highlights we wanted to share with you guys. If your major doesn't have anything to do with what you want to do for work, you have to be the one to fill in the gaps. He could have studied real estate and finance, but he was just interested in economics. And it's kind of similar, but it's not really the same thing. So you have to be willing to pursue education outside of the classroom. That means reading books, watching documentaries, and if it's not interesting to you, then it's a sign you probably don't actually like it. And furthermore, networking brings you to the door, but your effort secures the opportunity, right? So internships and jobs, he's often able to bypass the formal application process by networking. In other words, other people are applying online, and he's just going directly to people, like the actual people doing the hiring, and saying, hey, I'm Jovan, can I intern with you? And then they say yes, right? So you have to go out of your way, and you have to be friendly, and you have to be open. Next slide. I have another example, my friend Josephine St. Hilaire, also Haitian, shout out to Haitians. So Josephine is an engineer at L3 Harris. She majored in information technology. Most of her experience before her job was not in IT, but how she got her first internship was by going to a career fair at FAMU. She went up to this lady. She started talking to that lady. The next day, she went to a career fair at FSU, and she saw the same company. So she went up to them, she talked to them again, and the lady that she just met yesterday started telling them, oh yeah, this girl is so smart, she's so great, she's so nice. They met yesterday, right? But when you're friendly, people are gonna go out of their way to advocate for you. Through that one person that she met at that career fair, she was able to get support through the application process for the job and through the interview process, and then she was able to eventually get it. Next slide. Next slide again. These are my friends Rodney and Travis. We're all pre-law, and they wanted to share some tips about networking as well. So one thing they wanted to emphasize was the importance of lateral relationships. Lateral means right next to you instead of above you. So when people think networking, they think they should be trying to talk to people that are like already very far along in their career and just like, but really the people that are right next to you are gonna be able to help you the most. Especially because when you're straight out of college, it's very easy for like someone who used to be a co-intern to all of a sudden be your boss, right? So for example, all 3 of us were White House interns. When Rodney applied to the White House, the person who reviewed his application was someone he used to work with. So that obviously helped him a lot. His current supervisor at his summer job was also someone he used to work with. So you never know who you're gonna run into 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later. So when it comes to your coworkers, make sure you're being nice to them. Make sure you're respectful, make sure you're reliable, because those professional relationships are gonna follow you, and you never know if you're gonna be someone's boss or someone else is gonna be your boss, because people really do start to like move up the ladder after graduation. Next slide. This is my friend Brooke. Her major is electrical engineering, and her dream career is to be a special effects supervisor. She has worked on the movie set Moana, and she also has worked on other film sets for shows that are on Apple TV. The thing about the film industry, what she told me, is that it's very nepotism based, right? So it's not like you can go on Google and find a job. It's just these old white people who hire their sons, they hire their sons, they hire their friends, their nephews, and if you don't, you have to force yourself into the industry. The opportunity is not going to come to you. So how she got every single internship she got, working on these different movie sets, she just cold emailed individuals with her dream job. So she would join a general film organization and email people asking if they know a special effects supervisor. And then once she got the contact information, she would just introduce herself, ask if they can get on a call, ask if they can get on a Zoom, and then eventually she would ask for a job, right? And this kind of shows how a lot of us are behind. A lot of us wouldn't even know to do something like that. Well, we're over here on Google looking up internships to apply to. Other people are just going directly to the people doing the hiring and being like, hey, can I get a job? So it just goes to show you have to be very aggressive about getting the opportunities that you want. But it also goes to show that you can literally be whatever you want. Brooke told me she was watching movies, she loves movies, and she likes to see the explosions and the cars flipping and all these crazy special effects. And she was just like, oh, I want to do that. And she decided she wanted to work in special effects. I think a lot of us, we play it safe, especially being first gen. We only know of the big three: doctor, lawyer, engineer. Doctor, lawyer, engineer. There's so much you can do. Anything you see that you like, you should do research to see who actually does this job. And you'll probably find something a lot more interesting that you might actually enjoy. Next slide. So this is just an image of a bridge. Remember what I said earlier. The bridge that's going to be between your dreams and your actual outcomes is a plan. So you have to go in steps. You analyze the situation, you set your goals, you develop a plan, and then you implement that plan. If I can give an example of that, I would say that I'm very used to environments that are nurturing and invested in my professional development. So at the White House, I was shocked that it was just a very intense environment. Everything was always on a deadline. Everything was time sensitive. Everyone was stressed. Everything was an emergency. You didn't get no training. They just threw you in and expected you to know how to do stuff. And I was telling one of my supervisors, I'm not sure how exactly to navigate this. And what he told me, which was really good advice, is you have to be a shark, right? No one is gonna hold your hand and show you how to create the experience that you want. You have to create the experience that you want. So when you land an internship or another opportunity, think about exactly what you wanna get out of that opportunity and strategize about how you're going to get it. Another example, at the Florida House, I wanted a letter of recommendation from a state rep, but I didn't want a basic letter of recommendation. I wanted to be a very memorable intern so that they could rant and rave about me and just talk about how great I am so that I could use that letter for another opportunity. But I was just I'm just sitting here doing basic work. All she's gonna say is oh, Johana's nice, she's great. I'm what am I gonna do with that? So I was just you know what? One of these days, I'm gonna testify so that lady can remember me. Then, when the opportunity actually came, the Stop Woke Act was moving through the Florida legislature, and I was I was very angry. It was very racist. I don't know if you guys know about it or not. I'm not gonna get into it, but I just signed up to testify spoke in front of the Florida House, spoke in front of the Florida Senate, and the representative who I wanted to write me a letter of recommendation said, yeah, I was working, and then I heard a voice on the TV, and I looked up, and it was Johana, so I turned the volume up. And now, every time she writes me a letter of recommendation, that's the story she tells on the letter of recommendation, which is a much stronger letter than what you would get if you kind of did the bare minimum. But the point was that I had a plan. It was on purpose. It didn't just happen. I had to be like, I want a good letter of recommendation, which means I need to be memorable, which means I need to do something to be memorable. So that's what I did. Obviously, I had other motivations, but at the end of the day, it just goes to show that, like, it's up to you. You can't wait for people to do stuff for you and give you opportunities, because that's not always going to happen. Next slide. So I have some strategies I want to share about how to strategically build your resume. When I first started college in person, I was already a junior because of COVID, so the first year of school was online, right? And there's so much stuff I saw people doing that I thought was so cool, and I wanted to do it. And I kept looking stuff up, and all the deadlines would pass, and I'm like, dang, I wish I knew about this earlier because the deadline already passed. And I decided from that point forward, I'm not gonna miss any more opportunities. So I started doing research, and I built a running list of every opportunity that I came across. It could be an internship, a fellowship, a scholarship, whatever. At this point, this list is like 3 pages long, right? And this is important because you need to know what's out there. You need to know the landscape of your field. And then what I would do is I would over-plan. So I would think like 2 years into the future. This is what I want to do in the summer of 2022. This is what I want to do in the summer of 2023. Now, it is hard to get internships if you don't have anything on your resume. So one thing that I would recommend is starting off with campus involvement, just to get your foot in the door. I would join a pre-professional organization because it'll help you tap into opportunities and potentially gain leadership positions. And I would aim to add 2 to 3 quality experiences to your resume per year. So don't let a whole year go by without adding anything to your resume. I would also make sure your resume is organized, polished, and visually appealing. So use a template and get it reviewed at a career center. I hope the things I've shared so far have been helpful and inspired a mindset shift. Most of the rest of the workshop will provide actual resources and tips on how to do the things that have been discussed. Next slide. So I have here some sample resume templates that you can use, again, especially freshmen, but even people in undergrad. If you just wrote your resume from scratch and you didn't use a template, I would highly recommend to scan the QR code and start over, because I didn't realize how unorganized my resume was until I used the template, and I was just like, oh yes, this was all over the place. People like to see resumes that are very neat and organized and readable and legible. You don't want to have too much going on. There's a lot of rules, like the date has to be in a certain order, some things have to be bold, some things have to not be bold. So I would highly recommend downloading a template, and I'll just give 1 minute for you guys to finish downloading that before I move on. Can I move on? Okay. Next slide. So here are my tips on how to find and get internships. Firstly, I would join pre-professional organizations on campus and use social media to connect with like-minded peers who are on a similar career path. Ask, what are you doing this summer? What are you doing next semester? And that will kind of help you to build your list and figure out potential things that you can do in the future. Furthermore, every university has an office specifically for internships, whether it be a career center or an office for fellowships and awards. So go look through the resources that they already have and the databases that they already have. Furthermore, I would cold email people who have your dream job and ask to set up a call or a Zoom. This is what Brooke did. This is how Brooke got all 4 of her internships. I would also use LinkedIn. Raise your hand if you have a LinkedIn. All y'all should have a LinkedIn. If you don't have one, make one. LinkedIn is like professional Facebook, and my favorite way to use LinkedIn is to be a stalker. So basically, if you admire someone and you like the things that they do, you go ahead, you look them up on LinkedIn, and you look at all the things that they've done. Because people basically post their resume on LinkedIn. So if you're like, I don't even know what internships to apply for, I don't even know what's out there, just looking at what other people have done on LinkedIn can help you to kind of build your reservoir so that you have a lot of things that you can apply for in the future. Furthermore, I would always, always, always get feedback. This is so, so important because you can't just assume that you know what these people are looking for. Do I sound like I need water? I'm dead. Thank you, Mommy. Shout out to my mommy, everyone. All right. So I do have a short story about the importance of getting feedback. So I had a friend who wanted to apply to be a White House intern. He sent me his essays. He asked me for feedback. And I gave him very, very intensive feedback. I tore apart his essay. Everything was a red line, red line, red line. But to me, people actually care when they give you feedback. If they just tell you it's good, turn it in. They don't care. So then I'm waiting for him to actually accept the feedback, and he creates a new document and doesn't do anything to the original document. And I was like, oh, all right. And then I'm texting him every day, do you want to send it back to me? Do you want to send it back to me? And then on the last day, he texted me back, it's okay, I submitted it. Then, of course, he didn't get the internship. Little did he know, he actually had a very good chance of getting the internship because the things, he's a black male, that helps. Out of all the interns, there was only 20 black interns, only 5 of them were boys. 120 interns from all around the country, only 5 black boys. Only 5. So they were looking for more. That could have helped. He went to an HBCU. That could have helped. He brought back a very important, I just have to be specific so it makes sense to you guys. Actually, then people who went to FAMU would know who he is. Never mind. But he brought back a very important organization on his campus that has to do with Democrats. So if he let me help him, he could have got the internship, especially because I could have referred him. So don't let pride get in the way of getting feedback, right? An example from myself, I was applying to something a few weeks ago, and I sent it to my friends, Rodney and Travis, who I showed you guys earlier, and there was this essay that I spent 2 hours on. It was 800 words. I was so happy with it. And they were like, yeah, friend, you need to scratch the whole thing. Just start over. I was like, start over? It's due today. It was 800 words. What do you mean start over? They were like, yeah, if I was reading this, I would not accept you into the program. And I was just like, well, okay. If I was in my feelings about it, I would have just submitted it. But if I didn't listen to them, I probably wouldn't have gotten in. And I did end up getting in. So always get feedback on everything you do, especially from people who have already done the thing that you want to do, because they can help you the most. And last but not least, you have to know that the internship market is very competitive. So if you're not willing to apply to at least 15 opportunities, then you're not serious. Nothing good comes easy. You're not going to be able to have an internship if you apply to 3 internships and you're like, well, I hope I get one. Somebody else applied to 50, right? So you can't just say you want something if you're not willing to put the work in for it. The final category we're going to discuss is networking. It's not just about who you know, but it's also about who knows you. Next slide. I want to ask if someone can maybe provide their own definition of networking before we move forward. Say it loud. Just yell out.
Who you know?
Who you know?
Somebody said relationship.
Mm-hmm. Both good answers.
On n'a pas réponse, oui?
Yeah.
Mais pas mettre sur caméra, s'il vous plaît. Alors, son moun nous connaît pour le mettre en contact avec l'autre moun ou pas connaît, et moun nous vient ou pas connaît pour le mettre en contact avec l'autre moun ou pas de jamais penser au tap rencontrer.
Perfect. Anyone else? Elsie?
To me, networking is getting to know people that are of different backgrounds that can maybe help you in the future with other things and you help them and vice versa.
Excellent. Okay, next slide. So those were all accurate definitions of networking. It's about who you know and who knows who you are. Networking can be defined as the process of establishing and maintaining relationships for mutual benefit, such as for career advancement and professional development. It's also actively seeking out and interacting with individuals who share similar goals, similar interests. So when you think of networking, some people think it's very uptight and professional, like you have to go up to somebody like this and be like, hello, my name is Johana. Like no one talks like that, right? Networking is actually just the art of making friends. And when people like you, they're gonna help you. It's just that simple. So don't overthink it. Be your authentic self, don't be fake, be warm, be friendly, and don't just be someone who's always asking for stuff. Oh, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Make sure that you're also someone who has something to offer as well. So something I like to do, anytime I find an opportunity, I'll send it to all my friends or I'll put it in a group chat because I'm in a lot of group chats. If you act like you're in competition with people so you don't want to share the opportunities and you want to keep them to yourself, guess what? People are going to do the same thing to you. Then there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that you miss out on because nobody told you. So like I said, networking is just the simple art of making friends. Next slide. So there's a big difference between peer networking versus vertical networking. Your peers are your strongest resource. Can someone with good eyesight maybe come up and read the first bullet point? Yeah, unless you can see from over here. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, she got that good vision.
Wow, what is it like to have 20/20 vision, Elsie?
The first point?
Yeah.
Okay. Peer mentoring involves individuals at similar stages in their careers or life offering mutual support and guidance based on shared experiences and perspectives.
Can someone right next to you read the second bullet point?
Okay, in contrast, vertical mentoring entails a hierarchical relationship where a more experienced individual provides guidance and advice to someone at a lower level or earlier stage in their career or life.
All right. Next slide. So I want to explain some benefits of peer networking, because like I said, when a lot of us think of networking, we're trying to connect with all the big, important people, but really you should be looking at the people right next to you. Peer networking is more accessible, so because you have the opportunity to just connect with your classmates or student leaders on campus. And you also get put on, which is the most important thing. Sometimes your peers will know about local and niche opportunities that you can't find on Google. There's a lot of things that you have to know people to know it exists. There are so many things that I've done that if I just looked it up on Google, it would not have come up. So knowing people is the most important way to know about what opportunities are out there. You also get the most relevant and recent advice. For example, if I want advice about the LSAT, which is the law school admissions test, I'm not going to ask a lawyer. They took the LSAT 20 years ago. How are they going to help me with the LSAT? You would think to ask a lawyer, but they don't know because it was a long time ago. The best person to ask is someone who's in law school right now because they just took the LSAT 2 years ago. So that's something you have to take into consideration. There's value in networking with people at all different levels of their career, not just the people with the big jobs or the people who are already done, right? You also get personalized feedback if you're networking with your peers. So peers who have already pursued the path you aspire to can offer valuable feedback on your application materials, like I said earlier. Their firsthand experience gives them insight into exactly what the program you're applying to is looking for. If I can give an example of the value of peer networking, I have a friend who majored in sociology and just couldn't find any jobs, so she decided she was just going to go to grad school, and she didn't know what she wanted to go to grad school for. And she was just like, I'll do anything, I don't really care, I just want a job. So I had remembered that one of my professors talked to me about the urban and regional planning major, or going to grad school for urban and regional planning at FSU. And he was telling me, oh, you should come. And I was just like, no, I think I'm gonna go to law school. But he was basically telling me, we have like a handful of scholarships that are specifically for minorities, but every year, not enough black students apply, so the money just goes elsewhere. So I'm like, wow, y'all have free school, and because not enough of us are applying, y'all just use the money for something else. So I told my friend, I helped her with her application, I gave her feedback, I got her in contact with the head of the department, and now she got a full ride to Florida State for grad school. So that just goes to show when you actually talk to people, you have friends, you have relationship, it can be very impactful, it can be life-changing. Because her having a friend who was gonna help her was the difference between her just not having a job to her now having a fully paid graduate degree. Next slide. So how to network with peers. Can I get a volunteer to read the first bullet point?
Literally just go outside.
Literally just go outside. Literally just go outside. If you're in college, everybody around you is a future professional, theoretically, right? So if you're just going outside and talking to people, like you can't go to class and then go home. I know that's what our parents want us to do. That's not what you're supposed to do. It's not school and then go home, or school, go to work and then go home. If you don't know anybody, you're not going to get very far. You have to be in people's face. But it's also not that hard. The same way you usually make friends is the same way how networking usually goes. Can someone read the second bullet point? Slide into the DMs. This is my favorite thing to do. I think it's very important to not be a hater. Let me start there. When you see somebody doing good, you're supposed to say, hey girl, I see you. Good job. You're doing great. Don't be a hater, okay? Because I naturally do this, and then if I ask, hey, can you look at this essay application for me? I'm applying to the same thing you did last year. They're like, sure, because I always show love, right? But this is something that's very easy to do, and this is what I mean when I say networking is not that formal. Because I've just slid into a lot of people's DMs on Instagram, asking them questions, and they always answer. I would also use LinkedIn, like I said. Add people on LinkedIn, but don't just add them, actually interact. Comment congratulations. I feel like people just use LinkedIn to watch people. Say congratulations. Say good job. Say I see you, I'm proud of you. It's not gonna kill you to not be a hater. And also, curate your online presence. Now this is very important because a lot of jobs are gonna see what you post. Trust me, they see what you post. They have whole departments just to look at what people are posting on Instagram. And people who you might have things in common with will see what you post as well. So based on the things that I post, people already know what I'm interested in. Can I get a guess? Anybody?
I don't know. Engineering.
Right. So yes, I'm interested in politics, right? And it's very obvious based on what I post. And because of that, people who are also interested in politics, they follow me and we share opportunities. This is also, can I say this? What I post on Instagram is also how I got involved in the lawsuit to sue the Florida Board of Governors. So you never know what opportunities are gonna come based on how you carry yourself on social media. However, not everybody wants their Instagram to be professional, and that's okay. You can make your Instagram private if you're gonna post crazy stuff. Or you can create a professional Instagram account that's separate from your regular Instagram account, or just make a LinkedIn. Regardless, it is important to have a presence in 2024. And last but not least, I would just get involved on campus. But it's very important to know the difference between professional and social organizations. I know people who just join all the black organizations and they put it on their resume that I'm in the NAACP, and I'm in Sisters, and I'm Alliance for Black Women. Do you think they care? What is Alliance for Black Women gonna do for the job? They don't know nothing about that. You need to join a organization just to make friends, but also join organizations that actually have to do with your career, like an organization for economics majors or an organization for engineers. Next slide. But obviously, vertical networking, which is hierarchical networking, is very important for your career as well. You get their wisdom, they're sharing their lessons from their successes and failures. You're learning from their trial and error, so you don't have to do that trial and error yourself. From having people further in their career mentoring you, you can get letters of recommendation from respected professionals in your field. You can get access to opportunities, because these are the people who can actually give you a job or actually, put a good word in for you to the HR department. And you get exposure to different career options when you're networking with, people who are older. So you get to discover various careers beyond just doctor, lawyer, engineer. Last slide. And last but not least, I would say the key to college success is prayer. Matthew 7, verses 7 through 8 says, "Ask, and it shall be given. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and the door shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened." This is very important because I feel like there are 3 action words in this verse: ask, seek, and knock. To me, that means, yes, you ask, you pray, and it shall be given. But you also have to seek, and ye shall find. That's a verb. That means pray, get up off your butt, and go do it yourself. Because God can give you, He can open all of these doors, but He's not going to do all the work for you. He's going to open the door, and then you have to walk through the door. Knock, and it shall be open unto you. That means you have to go actually do the work yourself. So there's more to it, but the most important thing is prayer. Next slide. All right, y'all. That was the end of my presentation. I have my LinkedIn and my email, my contact information for anybody who wants to add me on LinkedIn. That's not a request. Add me on LinkedIn, y'all. And if you guys have any more questions that if you don't want to ask here, you can email me. I also have a lot of resources that I can send virtually as well. But I'm also taking questions right now if anyone has any.
What would you say is like the number one things like freshmen going into college should do?
My number one piece of advice for a freshman is to join a lot of organizations in your first semester. The reason I say this is because if you don't, who was talking? Mia? Okay. You can quit if you don't like the organization. But the reason you should still join in the beginning is because if you join in the middle of the school year, like let's say you join in the spring, what's going to happen is you're not going to be eligible to run for a leadership position. Here's what I mean by that. If I join an organization as a freshman, at the end of the school year, I can say, okay, I'm going to run to be on the executive board. I want to be treasurer of the organization. Then your sophomore year, you're treasurer of the organization. Then your junior year, you're president of the organization. Then you can say, oh, I'm president of the NAACP at Florida State University. Oh, I'm president of Black Female Future Attorneys at Florida State University. But for a lot of those leadership positions, you have to put in your time. So don't make the mistake of it being your first semester and being like, oh, I'm just going to feel it out. I'm going to see what everyone else is doing, and then I'm going to decide what organizations to join later. It's best to just join as a freshman, and if it's not for you, you can just quit. But at least for the ones you did end up liking, because you're already a member, it makes it easier for you to transition into leadership later. And I do think that if you don't have anything on your resume, starting off with campus leadership is the easiest way to build your resume. Because if you're just straight out of high school and you're applying for an internship, you know, you're not going to have all of this experience, but if you can at least show that you're involved in organizations on campus, that can get your foot in the door, and it'll also help you make friends with like-minded peers who are studying the same things you're studying. And that's how you figure out, okay, what internships are in Tallahassee, who's hiring, is because you're making friends and you know people who are telling you those things. So it's the easiest way to make friends, and it's the easiest way to eventually be able to be on the executive board of the organization. So that's probably the main thing that I would tell a freshman to do, is to join some orgs, especially at Florida State.
And what type of experience are they looking for on a resume?
To be on an executive board of an e-board?
No, I'm just saying to get an internship.
To get an internship. Okay, so the first internship is the hardest to get because you haven't done anything yet. This is where networking comes in, right? They're not expecting you to know how to do anything or have any experience if you're a freshman, unless you did things in high school. If you did anything in high school, put it on your resume. They're going to understand because it's your first year of college. But I would not worry about what they're looking for, because you either have it or you don't. I would worry about what relationships you can make that can help you secure the first internship. Because once you get the first internship, that's the experience that you're looking for. They're just looking for proof of your competence. So if someone else already hired you, that makes you a stronger applicant for the next thing you apply for. So the key is really just getting that first internship, and then your experience will build from there. Yeah.
So, and also, everyone in here, I hope that you guys are also putting the stuff that you're doing at the church on your resume, because that is experience too. Because a lot of people keep thinking that, oh, I'm doing it for the Lord, That's great, you're doing it for the Lord, but you're also gaining experience. And that experience, you could also use it to get you a job or an internship. So I wanted to add that.
I absolutely agree with that. I just want to highlight what Silviana said. A lot of us, we were pushed on stage at Beracah 1. We was on stage when we was 7, 8 years old, doing bienvenue, doing everything, sermons. 8 years old doing sermons, right? Even though it's normal to us because we were raised in church, when I tell other people that I was speaking in front of congregations of over 100 people at 7, they're like, what are you talking about? It's yeah, you speak at church. You don't speak at church? They don't speak at church. We have a lot of skills that come from just being raised in the church that a lot of people don't have. So I don't care if you only came up here and did bienvenue one time. You better put public speaking on your resume. You are a public speaker, because a lot of people can't even do that. And if you're in any ministry, like Silviana said, whatever department you're in, go ahead and put that on your resume. because a lot of people, you have event planning experience. If you did an event at Beracah 1, you have event planning experience. Put that on your resume. That was a good tip.
My question is, when should you be applying to internships?
Ooh, thank you so much for asking that. That is a great question. Repeat the question?
When should you start applying for internships?
Okay, this is an important question, and this is why I said to overplan. When I say overplan, I mean in 2021, I already knew what internships I was doing in 2024, okay? So sometimes the internships open the semester before, or even in the beginning of the semester before. And let me explain what I mean by that. Don't start thinking about, oh, I need a summer internship in March. No, you need to be applying for the summer internship in January. The application is closed in March. They already know who they want. Sometimes there's opportunities that are open later, but oftentimes it's the beginning of the semester before the semester that you want the internship. And if it's something that's very competitive, it could be even more ahead of that. Because I applied for a fellowship called PPIA. It was a public policy fellowship. I applied in November, and the program was in like June of the next year, right? So when you're applying for things that are very competitive, you have to be very, very, very far ahead of the curve. So don't start thinking about what you want to do this fall in the fall. It's too late. If you want to make sure you have an internship this August, this September, go ahead and start looking for them now, because I'm pretty sure the applications are open.
Je remercie Johana pour la présentation parce qu'il y a un pile d'informations là. Mais pendant la présentation, il y a un bagage que je suivre, je nous plus de détails sur ça. Généralement, dans la Floride, à côté de vivre là, on est capable de faire une full ride ou bien 75% dans la tuition, dans tout bagage, sous fait 3 bagages, ça a un gros GPA qui dans 1300, 1400 €, ou fait community service, et ou fait GPO 4 points, 3 points, combien, et puis ça me mentionné dans SAT.
Yes.
Et donc, on est capable de faire une full ride. Mais ou saute mettre un bagage on puisse dans les oreilles moi que après on graduate là ou capable style joindre l'argent pour
for grad school
pour graduate nous connaissons pile ces monde là qui alors jeunes étudiants qui là qui ça ou t'a do faire et ba connait ba yo clé pour essayer de t'avoir al pio côté l'argent.
Absolutely. I love this question. Fuegi was asking, how do you get funding for grad school? See, people will say all the time, you know, there's a lot less funding for grad school, so prepare to take out $50,000 in student loans. That's not true. If you're a competitive applicant, you will get a scholarship. Now, here's the thing. It's a lot more competitive nowadays. Affirmative action was overturned, right? I'm not going to go on a rant, don't worry. But because of that, you have to work even harder. We already have to work twice as hard, which is why affirmative action was in place in the first place. But now we have to work 3 times as hard because they took it away. The way to get funding from grad school is to make yourself a competitive applicant who can stand out. And everything I talked about in the presentation today is how to make yourself a competitive applicant who stands out. Because like I said, it's not just about getting good grades. It's not just about your GPA. It's about all your experience and what you bring to the table, right? So someone who has had a lot of internships throughout undergrad, someone who had various fellowships, someone who just did a lot of impressive things and who has a strong sense of purpose and direction, who has strong letters of recommendation, who writes strong essays to apply to grad school, those are the people who are going to be offered merit-based funding. Furthermore, obviously there's need-based funding. Most of us come from working class backgrounds, so we're already going to get need-based scholarships. But if you want all the money, you have to earn it through merit-based scholarships as well. Another really important key to funding for grad school is those tests that I was talking to you about. Depending on what you want to go to grad school for, it's different tests. So I know the GRE is just like a general grad school test, the LSAT for law school, the MCAT for medical school. If you get a good score on those tests, the money, I'm telling you, will fall from the sky. There's so many people who have all this debt that they wouldn't have had if they actually took the time to study for those assessments. If anything, I don't want to put you on the spot. But there's somebody else who can give very direct advice about that, you know, if they want to grab the mic. But the point is, if you study for those assessments, the money is there. The money is there. At this point, I think people just want student loan debt because they would rather not try on the test and then take out loans than study for 6 months, not really go out that much, not be outside every weekend, spend a lot of, and sometimes you have to spend money on test prep too. You have to be willing to drop a band on a tutor. I'm not saying a band just to say a band. $1,000, yes. If you have $1,000 to go on a trip, you have $1,000 for the tutor. Would you rather spend $1,000 for the tutor or $50,000 for grad school? Oh, all right. But yeah, that's my answer to that question.
From what Nana was saying, I did take the LSAT, and I'm now going to law school this fall, and that took a lot of sacrifice. It took me about a year and some change to study for that exam, and you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of time, like she said. I would spend hours after working in the library to go ahead and study over and over again. There's so many opportunities, and there's so much that you can do. You just have to look out for the resources and make those sacrifices. It's gonna take a lot. You're gonna want to do a lot, but you're gonna need the money one way or another. I'd much rather, like she said, make those sacrifices now than have to worry about debt later on.
For the free ski. Come on for a ride. All right, any more comments, questions?
I have a comment. From what Tawana was saying, she said it took her a year and then some change to study. And from my understanding, she wasn't going to school during that time. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of time, especially in our Haitian household, you have to like go straight to school. Right after you're done with your undergrad, you have to go back, and get your, go to graduate school and stuff. So sometimes it's okay to take a break, to breathe. Because if I didn't take a break, I don't know. I'm not going to go to the break. So this is just to say that just parce que mon pas un break, pas veut dire qu'il pas tourner back l'école. Je comprends que gen des monde, gen élèves yo pas aller l'école. And then là commence à faire l'argent, and then you're like, oh, l'argent plus belle, so I'm just gonna keep going to work, and then you'll pas continuer à aller l'école. But at the same time, ou pas connait qui côté mental space mon nan et tout, ou pas connait qui ça l'a étudier. In Tawana's case, she was studying for that test, and now got it again full ride. And imagine si pour aller l'école avant ça, she would probably be in debt.
Exactly.
Right? Or her mental state would probably be so bad that utap weli, and then you'd be like, that's not Tawana I know, So tout bagay sa nou bezou pou nou passe ave. And I'm not telling you guys to not go to school. That's not what I'm saying. But if you need the break, take the break to breathe. So that way, when you go back, you're on full speed, You're not gonna because you're strong enough to conquer whatever that you're trying to conquer. I have a question. So I know that you talk about internship. So what is your take on paid and unpaid internship? And how is it out there? Do you usually like get paid or unpaid internship? And what is your take on it?
Okay, so my first internship at the Florida House of Representatives was unpaid. And I think it's okay if at least your first internship is unpaid, because that's something that's just gonna open the door. So just let it feel like you're volunteering or something. If they're not working you too hard, if it's a little 10, 15 hours a week, okay, it's not paid, but you're getting the experience and you're networking and you're able to put something on your resume that'll open more doors. At the same time, you can't allow yourself to be exploited. It can't be unpaid after unpaid, free labor after free. It's 2024. Slavery was abolished in 1865. You can't keep working for free. After the first one, maybe the second one, there's just too many paid internships out here for you guys to be working for free. And that's why I would recommend you need to really do your research to find what internships you can get, because the first one to open the door, okay, but it shouldn't just be all the time, free labor, free labor, free labor. No.
Question. Okay, so how would you go about building your resume for a person who's not a freshman? Like, they already had some college.
That's a great question. The reason I love that question is because when I came to FSU, because of COVID, I was already a junior, right? I was already a junior in my first semester in person. So I was just like, okay, I have 2 years to really become that girl. I got 2 years. I don't got 4 years, I have 2. And so even if you're starting a little bit further in your college career, I would take the same approach that I would tell a freshman. The easiest way to put something on your resume is to just join a campus organization, right? So you join a campus organization, but then you work towards trying to be on the executive board. So you first start off, okay, I just have the organization on my resume, I'm a member. But then if you're a junior, in your senior year, you can say, okay, I'm on the executive board of this organization. Like, I'm the event coordinator, or I'm the membership chair, or I'm the treasurer, or the secretary, whatever. So that's a good first step. And this is where your network comes in, right? You might not, because you're further in your career, you can't fully rely on just like hoping that you're gonna get an internship. You have to aggressively go through your network to see who can help you get an internship. And a lot of the time, it's more about your friends and who you know than it is about what you're gonna find just from Googling. Because if someone's graduating, they're like, hey, like, I'm graduating, so I'm leaving my job at this law firm, does anyone want it? So many people get jobs from that, not because they looked it up and it was, a lot of these people, they don't even have an internship page. That doesn't mean they don't have interns, it's just not on their website. So you have to rely on your network, and you have to ask people what they're doing, ask people if they're willing to help you, and I do think campus involvement is probably just easier than just trying to get a job without having anything on your resume. But I would also say you have to be very aggressive. You can't afford to kind of like apply for a few things, because I was already a junior. There would be times where I applied for 15 things just for one summer, and I would only get like 2 offers, or sometimes even 1 offer. So just know that like it's not too late if you're already a junior. Even if you're a senior, it's not too late, because if your goal is to go to grad school and you're like, okay, I didn't really optimize my college experience, so I'm probably not gonna get that big of a scholarship, your work experience is gonna build your resume. So like Silviana said, instead of trying to go directly to grad school with no scholarship and getting all this debt, take your time, because even after college, if you get a career-relevant job, you get relevant work experience, and you network with people within your field, that will be on your resume. And that will be even stronger than any little internship that you did in undergrad, right? So you get 1 to 2 years of experience, and then you apply to grad school. So it's never too late. It's never too late.
And I could also add to what you said, Nana. Because that's what happened to me. I got my degree in finance, and then I started working in social work. So, but I always wanted to like help people, but I didn't know how. Okay, so after I got that job, and then I started seeing what I was doing, that experience helped me figure out what I wanted to do as a career. So when I started working there, and then I'm seeing what I was doing, and I'm like, I really love it. I was really passionate about what I was doing. So I went back to school to get my master's degree in social work. So this is just to say that sometimes you may not necessarily know exactly what you wanted to do in life right at the moment while you are in school, but you have to like allow yourself to learn and stuff. While you're working, don't just get a job just to get a job. Think about what are you going to be doing at that job to make sure like this is something that you want to do for the rest of your life. Because whatever, I don't know if you guys get what Nana is saying. Like whatever jobs or internship that you get is you're building up your career path. Because suba deja commencé faire konya, right? It's gonna take you a minute to get to where you wanna be. So to avoid taking forever to get to where you wanna be, so rather you look for jobs or internships toward whatever that you're trying to like achieve in life. And by working, you'll be able to like see what you wanna do, like what I did, kind of. So hopefully you guys learned something from that.
Parce que il y a des organisations, pas citer non, mais qui offrent étudiants opportunités pour aller travailler dans des industries. Il y aurait les internship. Et moi, je définis pendant la présentation, définis internship là, c'est dans le champ que il y a donc pour ta faire. Mais si après high school, une organisation pendant sommet, elle met au travail de ces internship, est-ce que c'est vrai non ça? Je ne sais pas sous ces questions là. Par exemple, une organisation qui vient dans l'école, si on a fini gradué, les filles elles mettent le travail, non McDonald's.
Non.
Mais yo promoter comme internship. Alors, on a besoin de plus éclaircissement sur ça pour ne pas get trap dans ça parce que ça vous pensez à venir et pas ça vous mettez à venir et gain qui capable pas besoin là et non besoin l'argent les filles auraient été dans internship ça faut sommet à passer ou venir ba connait auraient été là dedans.
I understand.
So now he's talking about, for example, like two different situations, different associations, two different situations. One is companies basically hiring kids out of high school into an internship role, right? And then they potentially stay in that role thinking that's going to be a career thing. The second thing is people getting, like they're already working in the company and then they put you in an internship position. All right, two different scenarios, right? If I don't mind, one thing I gotta say to people, that especially if you graduate high school, be careful with this idea, right? If you're like, for example, Disney does this a lot. I must say it. I say this. I used to work for Disney. Disney does this a lot. I called it out. I used to work for Disney. You can come in Disney as a part-time or full-time, right? Because when I was working there, I wanted to do internship for an engineer. They have engineers in there. They put you in an internship category. But in Florida, when you're in an internship category, especially those big companies, you're basically a labor slave for them. Because I've seen those kids that come from out of state, they under so-called internship because of management, whatever, but they just work them to death in a sense, because they're working like almost like a full-timer, but without the benefit. There's companies who do that. And the funny thing is, especially for the young people here, when you sign that contract, please read the fine print of what you're actually going to be doing. A lot of young people don't do that. So, faut que vraiment li qui ça yo considéré comme un internship. Surtout in Florida, where des compagnies qui utilisent le terme internship là as a way for labor stuff like that. You probably know about the labor laws and whatever. But c'est ça me dit dans réponse ça pour Simon qui dans high school qui gradué qui parle le terme internship là qui if the internship is not career based, don't do it. It's just you're just going to be put in a category where he's going to be working and working and working.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Yes, an internship is supposed to be related to your field. It's supposed to be professional. If you want to be a nurse or you want to be a doctor, you can intern at a hospital or a doctor's office. It can't be if a random job is calling their program an internship, that's not an internship, right? So at the same time, part of not getting exploited and getting scammed is having a strong sense of purpose. If you know what you want to do with your life, there's no crazy random lies that someone can tell you to just rope you into some scam where you're working at a restaurant. No. What do you want to do with your life? Do you want to work in a restaurant? No. So why would you be doing a restaurant internship, right? So you have to have a strong sense of purpose and direction. You have to have an idea kind of work that you see yourself doing so that you can find internships that are actually related to your field. Comments, concerns, questions?
Yeah, Nana, you was mentioning about this thing you call the one AI, the one the kid when cheating. Yeah. So how does that work? Let's say they're taking this essay, you get like 50 kids in the class taking the essay, but they don't know how to do it. All of them, the same subject, they just put it in there. Is it AI going to give them spit the same answer to?
Well, it's very advanced, right? But the teachers are smart. The teachers can read it and be like, a kid didn't write this. So it's not that they can usually get away with it, but the problem it's creating now is that the kids can't write. Like, let me give you an example. So I was working in DC County Public Schools, kind of studying education policy, and the teachers were telling me, yeah, 5 years ago, if you told a fourth grader to write an essay, they would just start writing it. Now you have to have sentence stems, like you have to start the sentence for them so that they can finish it because they don't know how to write a sentence. Like, let me tell you guys something. If your kid, and I'm talking your kid, not your teenager, your kid, si yo toujours sur téléphone, toujours sur computer, toujours sur iPad, you're doing them a big disservice. A big disservice. Because this new generation, sorry to throw Gen Alpha under the bus, they can't write. They can't write and they can't read. They can't write and they can't read. And when people... Ken, you're a teenager, okay? I'm talking about the kids. And when I say they can't read, it's not a joke. After COVID, all the test scores went down. Everybody's behind. Everybody that's like under 14, they're very, very, very behind. And it's up to you as a parent. You have to take them to the library. You have to make sure that they're reading. You're the parent. They're not the parent. They can cry, cry, cry. I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. 20 years ago, when you were bored, what did you do?
Go outside.
Go outside. They don't need a phone all the time. They literally can't read, and they're going to be behind for the rest of their education if they don't catch up now. And eventually, the teachers are not going to be able to detect when the students are using AI as it gets more and more advanced. If they cheat for their whole education, they can go all the way to high school and still not know how to write an essay.
Any more questions, comments?
Benjamin, can you move to the next slide? Well, I don't know if there's any more questions, comments, or concerns, but for my young people on this side, I have a survey, If you could please give me feedback on my presentation, I would highly appreciate it. It's anonymous, so you don't have to be nice. Say whatever you want so that I can improve this for next time. Question?
Oui, nous disons merci Nana pour Jean présenter le d'abord le leçon pour faire présentation. Qui conseille au cabay et jeunes nous qui aller dans entrer dans le collège, spécialement quand nous haïtiens en tant que parents, les nous pas là. Nous toujours gagnons pile prêcher parce que spécialement si on va faire les premières expériences dehors et qui sorte de comportement alors là me dit comportement comme si parce que là quand nous là pour nous dire ou faire déjà al checker ça mais qu'on y a nous pas là et gagnant c'est première fois ils ont un privilège for them by themselves. So qui advice ou capable bailler en tant que non seulement chrétien et puis élève qui sorti pour aller régler un bagage sérieux.
Okay. Yeah, I have two main pieces of advice for the students and for the parents. For the students, use your common sense. You know right from wrong. So many times you watch the news and something bad happens to somebody, and it's like, yeah, I feel bad, but also that was preventable, right? Use your common sense, please. And when it comes to drinking, please be careful. The best thing is to just avoid it entirely, but at the very least, pay attention to what's going on. Because there's a lot of people, they just walk around with the drink and someone can just put something in the drink. And it happens, unfortunately, semi-frequently on college campuses. I was about to say something, but I'm on live. So I'm not going to say it about a certain demographic of people who tend to do it more. But what I will say is to be careful and use your common sense. But what I would also say, parents, ti moun yo ki te ge parents ki hey mom, can I go to this birthday dinner with my friends? Yes, come back by 10. Okay. Ti moun yo ki parents yo pat kite yo fe anyen, se yo mem ki pi mal. Se yo mem ki pi mal. If you think you're protecting them by yo pa ka fe anyen mem net, se yo mem ki ap pi mal la yo al college. Li fe pi sens that ou kone zami yo, they introduce you to their friends, you give them a curfew, okay, come home at this time, si yo pa vini back at the right time, then they can't go out next time. Mais si it's just every time you vle fe un bagay, no, guess what? Se yo mem kap pi mal outside every weekend, every night. And that's, si yo pat santi yo te nan prison in the first place, la yo al college, yo pap santi, oh, freedom. Yap just santi yo normal. Paske yo genta, just, it's not a big deal. I'm gonna go study, I'm gonna go to church, I'm gonna go out with my friends, I'm gonna go home at a reasonable time. Man, se ou même ki bezwen fe yo santi, yo ka, si yo gen experience la yo la kay, et puis ou ka moutre yo comment pou yo safe, yap safe la yo dewa. Mais si yo pa gen anken experience même, se yo même ki yap pa gen anken common sense comment pou yo comporte yo, right? Exactly, okay.
Okay, I also want to add for those students to also know who you are. To also know who you are, because a lot of people in college, they do a lot of nonsense. They do a lot of things that you've never seen before. You don't have to fall into the same trap that they are in. Just stand firm in who you are and don't let anybody else change that.
And also, I know this is controversial, not to us, because we were raised in the church, but there's a lot of stuff coming out about certain organizations. I'm not going to say no names. I don't want to get jumped. But what I will say is, do your research before you do something. There are so many organizations that you can join, that you're going to get access to professional opportunities, that you're going to network. And guess what? You don't have to take an oath. You don't have to get on your knees in front of an altar. You don't have to do a bunch of crazy stuff. You don't have to get beat up. You don't have to get hazed and trauma bond with people just to make friends or just to be able to network. There's other ways to make friends. You don't have to get beat up. Ooh.
Les petits moun yo pour aller dans l'université ou bien in state ou bien out of state font passer avec eux dans l'université pour garder campus yo parce que ça t'arrive moi j'ai petit moi dans l'université m'attire attention et ça t'arrive tout gon scholarship tout offrir tout moi mettre là dedans moi dit al garder ça parce que des cob ou prend comme ça. Non, les papa, parce que c'est comme si l'MT entre les lignes, il y a 40 millions de dollars qui est available dans l'université ça pour orientation ça si ti moun nan t'apprend. M'dare mes parents regarder les ouvre bagay la ka nous, chita avec ti moun yo garder li moyo. Inclusion, diversité. Ou parler de ça, oui, dans le sens où parler, c'est dans le sens éducation, mais gon diversité, ou parler, il pas match avec valeur par nous.
No comment. Any other comments? Can we close?
There you go.
One more.
No, this question, I probably have to see you in person, Nana, about scholarship for my daughter. Maybe you can help me out with that too.
Was that?
Yeah, Lucky got a college kid, y'all. Yeah,
what?
Yeah, she's going to college.
Oh!
Yeah. Yeah.
No way! Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
Congratulations! We're so proud of you. I'll be forgetting. Yeah, they're growing up. Congratulations! I'm so proud of all you guys. One thing I can say, like this generation of Berachians, we're getting degrees. I just made up that word, Berachians. I didn't? Okay, Berachians. It's in the dictionary. But yes, I'm very proud of all of you guys, and I love to see the graduation pics. Keep them coming, keep them coming. And for those who are still finding their way, take your time. We're waiting for you. We're waiting for you. I would like to close with a prayer. Please don't forget to give me feedback. I would appreciate it. Leo, would you like to pray for us, please?
Ça nous dit faisait ça. Amen. It's always good when we get to have somebody from the church do things for the church. Nous qui Johana point pour al passer tout ça t'est passé and then to come back to the church to give back to the church. So it's a blessing to us. With that being said, we'd like to show her a token of our appreciation. It's not much, but it's just something to say thank you for coming back to the church, remembering us after all that you've done, so just to say thank you. If Sylvianica. Just to say thank you for everything that you've done for us. Thank you for this. You didn't have to do this. We know you're doing a lot of good things and big things where you are, so just to say thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Oh, come on, let's take a picture.
Are we taking a picture?
I gotta be in it too.
Okay. Thank you.
With that being said, everybody, let's stand up to close. En nous camper, mettez-nous debout pour nous fermer. Everybody bow their heads, close their eyes for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, gracious Father, we say thank you just for allowing us all once again to be able to come here and allowing Sister Johana to be able to spew out so much information onto each and every single one of us. In this moment, we ask that you allow us to use this information for our futures, to better our lives, to go in a better direction. Allow us to remember that we are Christians as we go out into the world with this information and to use it properly, Father God. Strengthen each and every single one of us here. We know this information can help everyone, old, young, and in between. May you continue to guide us, continue to protect us. Bless the rest of the Sabbath day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, everybody, for watching on live. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and happy Sabbath.